Namaste, welcome to Season 3, Episode 13 of TT Talks. My name is Suhas, and today we have a special guest.
Hi, my name is Snigdha.
And so, Snigdha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a third-year aerospace engineering major at Georgia Tech. Just finished my third year, going into my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dancer. I've been dancing pretty much all my life, and I'm really excited to do this today because I feel like one thing my parents have taught me since I was young is to embrace my South Asian, my Indian culture. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And so, this is just a random question, but what kind of got you interested in aerospace?
It was a project that I did in second grade, actually.
Uh-huh.
Ever since then, I was like, wow, outer space is really cool. There's so much to learn about it. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so, just going along the lines of what you just said, so tell us a little bit about, like, how you kind of started doing Indian traditional dance and, how that kind of grew into going into college.
Yeah, sure. So, my mom actually learned Kuchipudi, which is the form of dance that I learned.
Mm-hmm.
It's originally from Andhra Pradesh in South India.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom learned Kuchipudi when she was younger back in India for a good 10-15 years, but she had to quit because of financial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so in love with the art form that I guess she kind of, not trained me, but in a way, almost it just kind of transferred to me because I saw how passionate she was. She would make me watch like really old Telugu movies. And, you know, I got really interested in it since I was maybe like 4 or 5 years old. And we found a dance teacher around the area that we used to live.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that's interesting, though, is a lot of Kuchipudi teachers make their students wait until they turn 7 to start dancing. Because before that, you don't really remember the things that you're learning. You're not mature enough.
Okay.
But Bharatanatyam teachers, on the other hand, do start for kids who are 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was super adamant that I had to learn Kuchipudi because it's from the state that she is from.
Uh-huh.
So she was like, no, not Bharatanatyam. I want you to learn Kuchipudi. And somehow that kind of got ingrained into my head too. So I waited like a good 2 years until I turned 7 to start. And ever since then, there was never a day that I hated going to dance class. I fell in love with it. So
Really?
And been continuing since 2009, I think that's when I started.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. And do you have any siblings that also do Kuchipudi, or is it just you?
It's just me. My brother actually learns how to play mridangam, another Indian classical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
I play veena, and one of my cousins learns Bharatanatyam.
So, how did you, growing up, and you said you started professionally learning Kuchipudi at 7, how did you kind of because Kuchipudi in Indian traditional dances, it's not really taught a lot, or
right.
in the US school system. So how did you kind of get involved in that?
Well, we used to have summer camps every summer. During the year, it's pretty hard to go during the week when your parents are both working. So you'd only have like an hour or two of class during the weekdays.
Okay.
But during the summers, I think when I really got the chance to learn and grow, because it would be an entire month going to my dance teacher's house from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it became like almost like a community for me, like almost like a second family, because I grew so close to the rest of the dancers that were in my group. And so it felt like there were lifelong connections that I was making, and my teacher made it really easy for us to also have fun in class because she was so understanding. And not only did she teach us like the physical dance steps and the technique about the dance form itself, but she would teach us a lot of things about Hindu mythology and about, like family values and things like that. So I feel like I grew more than just as like a dancer in technicality. I learned more about my culture and about values in general. So I think it really helped me connect to the dance form because it really like helped me develop my personality. And these summer camps is basically like where I got the opportunity to spend a lot more time on it, outside of school and the other activities I had.
Gotcha.
I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. And so did you guys also perform like showcases or performance for your parents as well?
Yeah. At the end of summer camp, we would always do a little showcase. When we were younger, our teacher would just put together like a small little routine showing our parents like the most recent steps and pieces that we learned in that summer.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, I kind of got around to the other side of it. And now that I'm in like the senior group, the past couple of summer camps that I went to, me and my dance group actually choreographed mini dramas for all the little girls to do. So
Gotcha.
I've seen both like the dancer side and the choreographer side now.
Really, really. And so where did that transition really like start from?
I think going into high school, my junior and senior year specifically, I started going into class more frequently because I think right around when I started high school, my teacher got a bigger dance studio. Classes used to be in her basement, like when I first started.
Gotcha.
But she got like a nicer, bigger dance studio, and everything became like a little bit more professional than just like being in her house, part of her family type of thing. So she grew her academy, and as she had more students, she needed a little bit of help teaching the younger girls. So she started calling in people at my age level to come in and help. So I would go in like 3-4 times a week to teach classes to younger girls, and like even when my dance teacher wasn't there, I would cover for her and stuff like that.
Really?
So yeah, I think it really started maybe like sophomore year of high school, and then junior and senior year, like she gave me a key to the studio to go in and teach classes on my own and stuff.
Gotcha.
It was really cool.
Gotcha. And how did you learn about GT Pulse and want to join that?
So one of my older friends actually, from my dance academy, she's 2 years older than me, and she joined Pulse first when she started college. So I started hearing about it from her, and I started watching all their competitions, and the videos they posted online, and thought it was really cool. And I guess I didn't really realize that they were more focused in Bharatanatyam at first. I kind of just was like, wow, I didn't know colleges have classical dance teams too. So I was really interested in it.
Gotcha.
And I think right before I started college, I was like, if I really want to continue dance in college, I don't really see myself doing another form of dance other than classical. So this might be my best bet, and I went for it and I tried out.
So how did you learn Bharatanatyam skills when you did Kuchipudi your whole life?
Honestly, I'm not really sure myself. I kind of just picked it up as I went along. Because my first year was COVID year, we only met up like 3 times each semester to record our videos in person.
Okay.
But otherwise, a lot of it was just like, working on choreography and practicing through video calls. And so I think that was kind of like a transition year for me where I didn't really have to like stress out too much about, we're going to have to go and perform, like I have to be perfect before the competition and stuff like that. It was kind of just like videos we were making for fun.
Gotcha.
So I think that year really, and like a lot of the older girls on the team were still there at that point. So I think I tried to learn from them as much as possible. There's different names for like the hand gestures, the steps, like what you call different postures and stuff like that between Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi. So I think that year was kind of like the transition for me to pick up on all of that. Gotcha. And like if I dance, somebody who's trained in one form or the other would probably be able to tell that I'm a Kuchipudi dancer, not Bharatanatyam. But I think over time, like because there's very few technical differences between those two art forms, I think it's easy for one person to pick up the other.
Gotcha. And just for like the audience that might not know about GT Pulse, what is the team, and like are there like coaches, or is it just student run completely?
Yeah, so GT Pulse is Georgia Tech's nationally competitive premier Indian classical dance team. It's been, I think, 12 years now since it started, but we've been going to the national competition every single year to showcase what we've learned about classical dance all our lives. And no, we don't really have a coach. Most of us have been trained for at least 10 to 15 years.
Gotcha.
Like we all started dancing when we were really young at our dance academies. So we do have captains of the team that do a lot of the choreography, but we all contribute together to come up with a 6 to 8 minute set based off of a theme that we choose that's different every year. And we combine mostly Bharatanatyam steps, but sometimes Kuchipudi steps to create like it. Now it's called Pulse style amongst the team because there's certain steps that aren't particularly Bharatanatyam but aren't Kuchipudi steps either, and it's kind of become almost like a fusion form.
Gotcha. And are there any like specific like dance like like formations or movements that are unique to GT Pulse compared to other teams like Natya or any other teams like that?
I wouldn't say formations or choreography or anything like that. You know, really any team can do anything that they want. But I think one thing that Pulse is pretty good at doing is we're known more than, you know, being like perfectly on sync, which would be like a team like Natya at Berkeley. One thing that I think we're really good at is being able to merge everyone's styles to look a little bit more uniform on stage. And what I mean by that is a lot of other dance teams, even within Bharatanatyam, there's different styles like Kalakshetra, and I don't really know the rest of the names, but there's different styles within the dance form itself. And a lot of other teams will take people that have the same style, so it's easier for them to look uniform on stage. But with us, for example, like I wasn't even trained in Bharatanatyam. There's other people that learn like 3 to 4 different styles of Bharatanatyam, and we all look really, really different when we first try out. But what's unique about our team is we find a way to like merge all of that together and still look good on stage.
Gotcha. And what themes have you guys done in the past?
This past year, our theme was Mandodari, the wife of Ravana. It was kind of like a different interpretation of the Ramayana. So we have done a lot of Hindu mythological stories, like Ravana was a theme in the past. They did Karna in the past as well. And then I think one year was Trinetra, which was like Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma. But there also have been more unique themes. Like one year like last year we did Medusa, which is a Greek mythological story. The year before that, they did a piece, not the year before that, 2 years before that, they did a piece called Broken, which was about human trafficking, which was used to raise awareness. It was like a social message. So we've done all kinds of things.
Gotcha. And so going from your first year on Pulse to your third year now, has your role or impact kind of changed as you've grown?
I definitely think so. As a first year, obviously, I was still trying to learn, you know, what Bharatanatyam is, the steps that they have, how the team works, all those kinds of things. And as I got older, I tried to take what I could from the older people when I first started. And now I think I've reached senior status where I can contribute more to choreography sessions. And now the younger girls on the team come to me when they have questions about, you know, how does a competition work? What are the judges going to be like? Things like that.
Gotcha.
So I feel like I've been able to contribute back a lot more to the team.
Gotcha.
And I did some marketing work for the team as well as the social media and the gear chair. So been able to put in a good amount of work.
Perfect. And so what do the judges specifically look for in a performance when they're judging?
It's a combination of things. Number one is about the technique. You know, are you sitting in the proper sitting stance? You know, is your posture nice? Are, you know, your hand gestures and your foot movements, are they all uniform across the team? Things like that. And then there's also expressions. Facial expressions are really, really important in both Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi. Is a story that you're trying to tell coming across well? Did you choose the proper music tracks to represent your theme? And then about like your creativity, how clean or synced is the team overall, things like that.
Gotcha. And I know that the past year was your last year on Pulse, but do you like intend on doing classical dance into the future or joining like a summer team or anything like that?
I don't think I would join another team. I definitely will stay involved in Pulse as long as I'm at Tech. Even if I'm not dancing on the team, I'm definitely gonna, you know, keep helping them with choreography, admin type of things, whatever I can, I guess. Gotcha. But I was actually supposed to do my Ranga Pravesam, which is almost like what people call a graduation in dance. The Tamil word for it is Arangetram, if you've heard that a little bit more. But I was supposed to do mine in 2020, but because of COVID, it got delayed, and I'm planning to do it next year now. So I'm planning to start being a little bit more regular to dance class with the academy that I started with in Kuchipudi. And yeah, I think I've just been really inspired by my teacher. She's 50 plus and can still dance, and it's still just as beautiful as she did it, you know, 30 years ago. So I think I'm going to try to keep dancing for the rest of my life as much as I can. Because it really does, like, ground me and keep me rooted into my culture. So, yeah.
And what do you think makes Indian classical dance like Kuchipudi or Bharatanatyam like unique and different from other dance styles like Bali fusion?
I think, obviously every art form has its own, touch to it, in terms of like what it's teaching you about our culture. But I think the reason that I really like the classical dance forms is because it feels more traditional, and a lot of what we do is connected to Hindu mythology. And I don't consider myself like a super duper religious person. But if it weren't for dance, I don't think I would be learning about all the morals that, the mythological stories are supposed to teach us. A lot of what I've learned about Hinduism has been through dance. So I think it's like a way for me to be able to connect back to, my parents' beliefs, my grandparents' beliefs. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that would be the best answer.
Gotcha. And so switching gears a bit, so I know you were the director of Tamasha 2022, correct?
Yes.
So what kind of got you involved in that? What made you interested in that?
Combination of me loving dance, and the second part of it was I also really like organizing events. When I was in high school, I helped run my school's international night, and it was a huge success. So I was like, hey, if I can do something in high school at a level of like maybe 500 people, then why not take this to college and apply it to something with 1,500 people? Gotcha.
And so kind of walk us through like the organization elements, like what you had to do first leading up to the event.
Yeah. So, for anyone who doesn't already know, ATL Tamasha is a national Bollywood fusion dance competition for collegiate dance teams across the country. And so every year we have 8 to 12 teams come in and compete in the Bollywood fusion category and Bhangra category. We've had Ras in the past as well, but for the past couple of years we've been sticking to Bollywood and Bhangra. And basically it's a really, really large-scale event that happens at a theater with, an 800 to 1,000 people capacity. So we spend almost all year planning, starting from, May or June, going up until October or November, whenever the event is in the fall. So there's an executive board that helps in the organization, the planning of this event. And as director, the first steps is to choose a venue, choose a date, choose your board for the next year. And after that, there's a bunch of different parts of the competition outside of just competing. We don't just have a show venue. We provide a lot of different hospitality needs like transportation and lodging and food. And so all of that. And then we organize an after party post competition. And there's a mixer on the day before as well. So dancers can come and interact, make new connections. So it's like a lot that goes into it, into that one weekend of competition. So whether it be finances, hospitality, putting together the mixer, safety for, dancers and outside attendees at both our competition and after party, all of that stuff goes into it's like the back work, I guess, of putting the competition together.
Gotcha. And so how were you able to manage organizing this entire project with being on Pulse as well?
It was definitely a lot. Pulse practices 9 hours a week. And there were definitely times where I'd have to be at practice, but still, be on my phone on the side to be answering questions for board members and things like that. So it's definitely really, really stressful. But I think the fact that I cared so much about it, it wasn't just like, hey, this is just some event that I'm running. Like it felt like my own. I felt like I had, some kind of accountability for it, and I really wanted it to be super successful. So the more that I, motivated myself, looking to the end goal, I guess, the more it was like, okay, I just got to push through practice, and then I can go home and, finish all this work, that kind of thing. So definitely was hard, but we made it through.
Gotcha. And are there any shout outs you want to give to any other exec members?
Definitely. I can't really pick one or two names. We had a really, really great board this year. I'm really fortunate that everyone on the board this year, really carried and did their roles and, carried up to expectations. But yeah, I guess the main shout out that I want to give is to my co-director, who, helped me through the whole process.
Gotcha. And so do you plan on organizing another event like this in the future at Tech?
I'm actually not director for the organization anymore.
Okay.
I've passed that, thrown onwards to the next year's
Uh-huh.
directors. But I plan on still being on board as like an advisor just to help out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about tech, if I'll be helping any other events.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one of my dreams actually to start an event planning business when I'm older, one day when I'm more stable in life. And like I've always dreamt of helping organize somebody's wedding. So
Okay.
hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to do that.
Oh, that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so are you involved with any other Hindu or South Asian clubs on campus?
I'm kind of inactive right now, but I did freshman and sophomore year help with Asha for Education.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a nonprofit organization that raises money for supporting education of underprivileged children in India.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cause that I've, supported all my life by volunteering in different organizations like Viva and even helping like the temples projects and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on the PR team to help like promote their projects and find new donors and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I was too busy to work on it like this past year, but hopefully next year I'll be able to pick it up with some more time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so this is just a little bit more of a deeper question, but while you were organizing all these like events and being on dance teams and like being a part of these different clubs as well, have you ever faced any difficulties with like fitting in or just like being able to communicate with other people about like these specific things?
That's a good question, actually. I don't think so, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the people that I've been surrounded by my whole life have been people that help me feel comfortable about my culture, religion, just my background in general.
Mm-hmm.
And, since I guess middle school, I've had like a primarily Indian friend group.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of always been used to being around a community of people with like a similar background as me.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that, I don't know, maybe it is a blessing, maybe it's a curse, I'm not really sure, but I feel like I haven't really been able to see as many like diverse perspectives.
Okay.
Which is part of one of the reasons why I joined TEDx Georgia Tech, because there's people from all kinds of backgrounds, different races, different cultures, and also like different majors in college too. So everyone has, like a different perspective on the way they see things.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved in TED Ed in high school too.
Gotcha.
Which carried into college. But
Gotcha.
even that, like, it's a very supportive community. I don't think I've faced challenges in terms of fitting in the organizations that I've been a part of.
Gotcha. And have you ever given a TED Talk before?
I did. I gave one in high school about social grouping and stereotyping in schools.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so, like, after all these experiences that you've been through, what is a TED Talk idea that you would be interested in giving? Like, from a transition between high school and then your college now.
Yeah. I think dance is probably the thing that means the most to me, outside of like my academics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would probably talk about like the impact that dance has had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's like a very generic topic. A lot of people have done things like that, but if you're asking me like what's, something that's really meaningful to me, it would be like how dance has changed me as a person.
Gotcha. And so are you ever, when you're performing these dance styles, are you ever worried that these dance styles are declining or being like less practiced and showcased because as people are doing other dance styles as well?
I mean, there definitely is a rise in the number of people learning more modern dance styles, but on that note, there's also been, a greater number of teachers as they move from other places to like the area that I live in. Like there's so many more Kuchipudi and Bharatanatyam teachers now than when I first started, 13 years ago, 14. So I don't really think there is a decline. If anything, I feel like more people are pushing their kids to join different activities like this.
Gotcha. And what is your opinion about like modern like TV shows or movies like depicting like these Indian dance styles or like Indian characters Like, do you feel like it's stereotypical, like just portrayal of them, or are they like reinventing the idea of South Asian in media?
I mean, personally, I feel like as long as it's not, being made fun of or disrespected, I think it's absolutely fine to incorporate other cultures. Like, I do see the perspective about cultural appropriation, but it really just depends on the intent. Obviously, there are things, in American TV shows and movies and in other countries as well, when Indian art or culture is being depicted, it's kind of like stereotypical of, like, oh, this person just moved from India, they eat curry, they wear a bindi, certain things like that are very, very stereotypical. But I do see a shift. I feel like slowly society is moving a little bit further away from it. Obviously, we're not fully there yet, but I think with the fact that in, like the American film industry itself, there's a growing number of South Asian actors and actresses, and even people that are producing / directing films, things like that, that have like higher up roles and can hopefully influence for a more accurate representation of South Asian culture.
Gotcha. And so how are you able to be so proud and open about sharing your culture with people who have no idea what Bharatanatyam or Kuchipudi dance is or anything like that?
I think that's something that I learned from my mom. I'm gonna give you a little backstory real quick. But when I was younger, my mom used to force me to wear a bindi to school, and I hated it because like when I first moved, I was actually born in India, and I moved here when I was like 3 years old.
Gotcha.
But when I first moved here, obviously nobody looked like me, nobody wore a bindi, and I always felt left out. In elementary school, like I was bullied a couple of times, and I was like, nope, not doing this anymore. So I would start taking the bindi off every day when I got to school, and I would like lie to my mom about reasons why I lost it, because I was just too embarrassed to wear it in front of other kids. Like as a 5-year-old, you can't expect me to, be proud of my culture and embrace it, right? But then one day in middle school, which was years after I'd been doing this, my mom kind of sat me down and thought I was like mature enough to finally think about it, and gave me this whole lecture on why we shouldn't change who we are for other people. And for some reason, it kind of just clicked for me. And from that day onwards, it was something that I was proud of rather than something that I tried to hide. And this is actually the story that I wrote for my Common App essay. But yeah, I think it's really just, for some reason, the words that my mom told me were just so powerful and has just been ingrained in my brain since then.
Gotcha. And have you like had any specific instances where people would like mock you or like call you certain things?
In elementary school, for sure, because I wore the bindi, and they'd be like, hey, what's that red dot on your forehead? Things like that. Because they didn't know any better. You know, other 9-10-year-olds seeing something that's different from what they're used to. But I don't think in recent times I've gone through anything like that. There are still times where people will make, like a stereotypical joke or something like that about Indian culture. You always hear about, white people saying, oh, I love naan bread, things like that. But I don't think there's been particularly anything that's been mocking or offensive to me, at least in recent times that I can remember.
Gotcha. That's good. And so you also mentioned that you played the Indian instrument Veena. So how did you kind of get started with that?
Yeah, so when I was younger, when I first started dance, I also started learning Carnatic music. And I learned that I'm not a great singer. But I did learn singing for like a good 7-8 years until one day I decided to quit. But I still really did like music, particularly Indian music. So I found a Veena teacher near where I live and started learning because I thought it was a pretty instrument to listen to. And I think that's kind of Veena has definitely helped me connect to dance as well, because a lot of songs that I've learned how to dance to, I now know how to play on my Veena, and I know how to sing the songs now. So I feel like it's kind of been like the music trifecta that's really helped me, I guess, like get the most exposure to my culture. And it makes me appreciate like the rhythms and things like that in my dance class as well.
Gotcha. And so have you performed Veena at like a showcase or a performance or anything like that?
Once or twice, yeah. My teacher does do a yearly recital around the time of Navratri, which is a Hindu festival for people that don't know. But I've also done like Composers Day events and things like that once or twice. So not in front of a very big audience. I'm definitely a little bit more private about my Veena journey than I am about dance. But it is fun to play when I can.
Gotcha. And you also mentioned that you were involved in TAMA and Gates. So could you just explain to the audience like what those organizations are and what they do?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different organizations for Telugu people in like the Atlanta, Metro Atlanta area, like TAMA, TANA, ATA, NATS. There's a ton of different organizations. I couldn't sit here naming all of them. But when I was younger, when I first started dance, my teacher was asked a lot by these organizations to send small groups to perform for their events around like festivals and stuff like that. So that was, I guess, like my very first exposure through dance. And Gates actually originally used to be called TCI before the state Telangana was formed, and my dad was one of the founding members.
Oh,
he was
wow.
really involved
Okay.
in the Telangana movement. So since I was in like kindergarten, first grade, my cousin and I would always perform folk dances for Gates events every single year. So we were almost like cultural volunteers for the organization.
Gotcha.
I've been a little bit less involved in the past couple of years, but when my dad was like part of the leadership, my whole family was kind of dragged into it, where, he'd host like forums and things like that. So I learned a lot about like the history of Telangana and stuff as I did these dances.
Wow. Okay. And have you ever performed Kuchipudi at these events before?
Not for Gates, no. But I have for the other organizations through my dance teacher.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so
a lot of the choreographies that we do are not by my dance teacher, but by her teacher. And he's like a really, really renowned Kuchipudi dancer in the Kuchipudi community. And a lot of choreographies that people learn till date are all of his choreographies. So my teacher didn't used to like us performing his choreographies for these kinds of events. So I've never done anything on my own, I guess.
Okay.
And I wasn't old enough to choreograph on my own by then. So anything that I did was my teacher's new choreographies, small skits and stuff like that.
Gotcha. And are you involved in anything in the religion aspect of Hinduism?
Not really, to be honest. I have volunteered at the Hindu Temple of Atlanta before. My dance teacher was involved in their cultural programs. So I performed for the temple so many times, hundreds of times, honestly, in the past several years of my life. And I've volunteered when they have New Year's Day events and things like that. But having to do with religion itself, I've never been part of a Bala Vihar group or anything like that.
Gotcha.
My mom taught me all that stuff at home, along with the rest of my cousins. So I don't think I've been involved in a religious group, I guess.
Gotcha. And so just as a whole, in your opinion, do you think tech has a good South Asian representation and initiative when it comes to these things?
I definitely think so. There's a lot of different organizations, whether it be a dance team or, a lot of what I know is within the dance community at tech. But I think there is a SASA, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
And other organizations, not just, Indian culture, but, Chinese, Korean, all kinds of other South Asian countries. And I definitely see an increase in the participation in these organizations.
Okay.
So I really do think, and there's a lot of freedom with creating new clubs, being able to explore what you're passionate about. So I really think the number of these organizations and these opportunities is growing, which is a really, really good thing, and I want to see it continue to grow.
Gotcha. And so you're graduating next year, I believe, right?
This December, yeah.
Oh, this December. Okay. No, my bad. Do you see yourself being involved in South Asian culture in different ways or anything like that?
For sure, yeah. Whether it be through dance, through Gates, or any other, Telugu organization, or Viva, the temple, things like that. I feel being involved in these organizations is something that I want to do for as long as I can. Because I've been taught how important my culture is to me, and hanging on to those roots. So I definitely want to be involved in groups that help other kids do that. So even as I grow older, I'd love to be on the other end of it as like an adult volunteer.
Gotcha. And do you definitely intend, like, if you do have kids in the future, do you intend on also teaching them Indian classical dance and values as well as that?
Absolutely. I mean, if they're interested in the same things that I was into, then that would be a great way to bond and also teach them about, our religion, our traditions, our family, all the things that my parents have passed down to me. I'd love to pass down to my kids too.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. And so as we're wrapping up this podcast, so I know this is your last year on Pulse. Do you have any news like regarding like their like next year and like anything like we should be looking forward to in their performances?
I would just say make sure to follow Pulse on social media so that you can stay up to date. Our competitions are only in the spring every year, not in the fall, so you're not going to see a whole lot in the fall. But we do hold open practices. So if you're interested in seeing a collegiate classical dance team perform at Tech, then we do have practices that are open for everyone to come and watch, like our final run-throughs. So definitely keep interacting with our social media.
Gotcha. And so in case like let's say there's like a situation where this South Asian person is struggling to accept and be proud of their identity, what is something that you would tell them and like have them do in order to be proud about their heritage?
I guess the first thing that I would say is ask yourself the question of like, what makes somebody else better than you are just because they are of a different origin than you? I think that was the question that my mom had me ask myself when I was younger. And I was like, honestly, nothing. Like, we're different, but it's not like one is better than the other.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what sparked that realization that, okay, just because you're different doesn't mean, one is better or one is worse. And I think there's a quote, I don't know who it's by, but it's something along the lines of strength lies in your differences. If we all had the same culture, same background, then it wouldn't really, we wouldn't really progress that much, right? So the fact that you are different from somebody, the fact that your culture is so rich in, whatever history that it has, is what sets you apart, is what helps you bring new perspectives to the table when you're with different people, right?
Yeah.
So why would you take away the one thing that's helping you stand out in a good way, not a bad way?
Gotcha. Wow, that was a great way to end this. Wow. Thank you so much, Snigdha. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience or just reinstate regarding anything you said?
Not necessarily. I mean, I kind of just summed it up. Stay true to yourself.
That's perfect. Yep. Thank you so much, Snigdha.
Thank you.